way to tell that you're operating on that side?
I'm so glad that you asked, Joanna, because one of the things that we have, there's a tool, there's a chart that actually will show us kind of where each emotion vibrates. And that kind of gives us a starting point to begin to see and look at ourselves and say, am I vibrating at this level or at this level? Mm-hmm. And that also is aligned with stages of consciousness. So we're going to get there in a second, but I'd love to share this image again because it's so powerful in the way that we have a choice. A lot of times we don't realize we have that choice, but we are living in an existence that has duality. The material world has duality. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's light, there's dark, there's love, there's hate. So for whatever feeling and emotion, there's the opposite and equivalent emotion. They're not opposites. They're part of like the front and the back of the same coin. Which one we focus on is the one that we're going to manifest and see the most. So whichever one we focus on grows.
I think that's such a powerful visual right now, Claudia, because I think a lot of the people who are tuning in are probably light workers, and it's easy to get caught in, like Joanna, you're saying, the people around us are such a gravitational force, if you will, with so many people looking at the ways in which things are falling apart. But it's so important for us to cultivate the power to focus on what's being called in. So the physical, we can see what's falling away. We can see the cliffside part of that, but we don't know what where the sun's coming from.
Yeah.
That's a super visual.
That's the beautiful thing about this conversation. We're going to give everybody powerful tools from our experiences, from our 4 different points of views, and some very tangible tools that people can apply in their lives day to day, so that when you're finding yourself feeling and looking at the darkness and not knowing where the light is, not knowing how to get out of it, there's some simple tools that don't feel so simple at the time, but you'll understand them. And then you'll have this to remember and to say, okay, am I just willing to try this? That alone will shift the vibration. That alone will open up the possibility that even though I just feel the darkness right now, even if I'm just, I remember seriously from personal experience, in the middle of a meditation, in a heart-centered meditation healing session with my master teacher, Rayleigh, who was a God gift in my life and changed my life. Her telling me, Claudia, feel the love, be the love. And I'd sit there in tears. I don't feel no love. I was in such the dark night of my soul. I was like, there is no love. What are you talking about, the love? So there are moments that we feel such despair or such loss or that we don't see where that's going to come from. And we want to help give you ideas and ways that you can shift that for yourself. So in the mere acceptance that this is part of reality, this duality is just part of the plane we live on. We can't change this, but we do have the ability to choose at times which one we're going to look at the most. Which one we're going to focus on the most? Can we focus more on the light in our lives, on the good things, right? And how do we do that? How do we shift that when we're not feeling great? So there's ways that we speak to ourselves, right? Above the line behaviors and below the line behaviors. And this goes to what Joanna was saying. A lot of times we don't realize where we are vibrating from, or what state of consciousness we're in, unless we've done a little bit of work on ourselves. And part of that raising consciousness is so much about doing the hard personal work, the psychological work, the clearing, what I call my baggage, right? The luggage that I carried around for so long that no longer serves me and that I'm never going to want to wear again. And if we can think about it this way, the below the line behaviors, the stuff that's vibrating low is the blame, the shame, the guilt, the victimhood. When I would drown and feel like a victim and I didn't see a way out and I thought, oh, this is happening to me, pity me, poor me, I've had it rough, I had it hard, and I couldn't see the other side. I was vibrating in that low state and I didn't know how to get beyond that. Now, through the work, through teachers, through reading, through the personal years of working on myself, I found somebody that said to me, look at this. If you shift from victim to how is this happening for me? Boom. You shift it out of the below the line into the possibility and willingness to take responsibility for at least your half of how you're creating this in your life. Right? And that ownership is the place of power. That place where I can say, I am now responsible, no matter what my circumstances are, no matter what happened in my life before, I now get to choose how I want to live my life. I now get to choose what I want to make of this. And that responsibility, that accountability, that ownership of, okay, I made some choices, maybe with somebody else, maybe with a partner, maybe with a loved one, maybe as the parent, maybe with my parents, or because of my parents. But now, what do I want to do with it? And there's a great quote by Carl Jung that says, I'm not my circumstances. I am what I choose to make of them. And I found that to be so, so powerful, because that is the only place of power in our lives, is what can I do about it? As long as I'm playing victim or blaming somebody else for all of the issues, all of the circumstances, I can't change it. And so I can't change the vibration. So just beginning to shift this mind frame, right? Let's look at, okay, this is one of these tables that are so powerful. And they talk about the vibration of each emotional state, right? From the lowest being shame and guilt, and moving up through apathy, grief, fear. Then we start to go into the green line, start to get up there with, okay, desire. But then desire can stay in wanting, or anger, because the frustration of not being able to fulfill what we wanted to fulfill. Then the pride. But what happens when we can shift into courage or neutrality? So in those moments of despair, if you can turn around and just say, I am willing to let this go, and I am willing to look for or receive guidance and receive the path out of this feeling, everything starts to shift, right? So how can we immediately shift out of this low vibration or low states of consciousness is, okay, I can start taking responsibility, but I can also start looking for, where am I? What can I be grateful for in my life? The next closest thing to enlightenment, just below that, is gratitude. Gratitude is the highest possible vibration that we can experience on this plane, next to enlightenment. Peace and gratitude. That grace of surrender and saying, okay, what can I be grateful for no matter what is happening in my world? No matter how dark a moment seems, no matter how out of sorts I feel, no matter how difficult a day I had. Right? And let's look at, okay, so if we look at this vibrational wave and these feelings, right? Where do you find yourself more often than not? Look at those words: forgiveness, optimism, trust. Can we do daily affirmations? Does that help us raise our vibration when we're going through difficulties? Right? Or when that state of despair, we've lost someone we love dearly, can we look at the love and the joy they brought us? Will that shift us from the despair? Pretty immediately. Right? So we each have ways and tools that we've learned along the way to be able to shift our vibration and raise our consciousness. And I'd love for all of us to share a little bit what tools and what we use. The greatest gift for me has been gratitude. to be able to look at any given situation and realize that gratitude is the highest possible vibration next to enlightenment. So I kept asking myself, what can I be grateful for? And if I couldn't be grateful in that moment, I mean, there's always something that I can be grateful for. But if I couldn't see beyond that moment, it would be, okay, how is this happening for my highest purpose? If I believe in the divine intelligence, that there's an energy that's got my back, there's some method to the chaos. There's some divine truth in all of this that has the love and that has creation. There is such perfection in creation, just looking at nature, that this can't be haphazard. So then I trust by going into the gratitude of what can I be grateful for? Or how is this happening for my highest purpose? And then I can switch into gratitude a little bit. Carol, tell us a little bit about the tools that you use, please.
Well, first I want to back up a bit because as you were going through this, one of the things that came up for me when I was beginning my journey was, when someone said that I am responsible and I create my own reality, I was pissed off.
Yeah.
Said, what the heck are you talking about? But I didn't use heck, obviously.
Yeah, me neither.
And I was really upset. I said, how dare you say that I'm creating all the things that are happening to me? Mm-hmm. But then as I went more along the way, and it would, I experienced firsthand that, and I actually, I could see my whole life reel, if you will, play before me, that based on what I knew at the time, I responded and reacted accordingly. And the things that happened as a result of those reactions was what I got back in return. So in other words, what I put out, I got back. How I was feeling was reflected back to me. And so I had to pay attention to the fact that I was the central figure in every scenario of my life. So yes, I came to realize and understand that, yes, I create my own reality, and each and every one of us does the same. And from that point, I was able to begin to shift what my actual reality was from such a negative perspective to a more positive perspective, and really align myself with who and what I truly was, who I truly am. And then, gratitude kicked in, love kicked in, because I could actually feel my own vibration raising and rising, and I could see it around me. But at first it was not easy.
Oh, I agree. And this took a while. I mean, this is years in the work, right? And sometimes I was in a beautiful, beautiful workshop today, and our beautiful master teacher was saying, each person's path and journey takes however long it takes. Some people are going to get it immediately. Some people are going to get it next week. Some people are going to get it a few years down the road. You're going to get it when you're ready, and through the circumstances that will lead you there. Sometimes they're hard ones. Sometimes they're traumatic ones. We talked a little bit about this on our first show. Sometimes there's that aha moment that is a gift. But I, like you, Carol, and I'm so glad that you brought that up. Thank you, because it's so powerful. Because when somebody used to say, well, you're responsible for creating your life, I'd be like, F you. I did not create this and this and this and this and this. Then there's the understanding also that so many of our beliefs are unconscious beliefs, subconscious beliefs that are actually ruling the way that we make the choices moment to moment that we're not aware of. And they're saboteurs. And there's some ways sometimes that we're used to doing it a certain way. We don't know any better. We didn't know how, or we weren't taught how to do it positively, or how to do it responsibly, or how to do it consciously. Right? So it takes work.
I remember it's a delayering process, if you will, peeling the layers. And just like you said, everyone's journey is going to be so unique. For mine, my childhood wounding was a lot about abandonment with the crummy dad that runs off. And so I was recognizing I had gotten to a point in my business where I was partnering with other people, and I was always waiting for them to give, bring their part of the deal to the table, if you will. And I was in this incessant waiting, and I'm blaming everybody like, gosh, I could move forward if it weren't for this and this and this. And I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, all the different places that I'm pointing the finger. I love that saying, when you're pointing the finger, there's 3 fingers pointing back. And to recognize, where was I not willing to stand on my own and just move forward with or without that person? So I was still, what I was doing is that childhood wound of abandonment left me feeling not worthy to stand on my own feet. And so I was looking for support outside of myself. But what was happening is that core abandonment, I was abandoning myself. So I was not believing in myself enough to stand and take charge, do my own success first, and then layer in collaborations and other ways of playing with other people. But to be looking at the wounds, oftentimes, there's other ones, like we think we've got to forgive, the dad situation or whatever your personal crash and burn is. But it's like, that's why I love Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian practice, because we're forgiving the other person, but we also get to forgive our own selves. And our soul took us on that little journey for a reason. So we got that contrast so that we could come to a greater awareness. And so self-forgiveness, self-abandonment, self-flatulation, self-blame. Think about it in both directions. Oftentimes, I think we're looking to just forgive from the outside, but to recognize, how are we? There's no more powerful words than the words we say to ourselves. And just like you said, Claudia, so much of that chit chat is happening. We're not hearing it, and it's in that subconscious. We're not even aware. So I love how you use the question to tease out, because the quality of our lives is really driven by the quality of the questions. And we might be asking, like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening again? It's like, no. Assume everything in your life is happening for you. So I love the question that, what in this, or, is for my highest good? Or I like to think of, okay, what haven't I been paying attention to that got me into this hole? And then, then how do we get out? Because once you get the lesson, man, things can shift quickly. I love that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, Kathy. Thank you. And how did I contribute to the situation? A little responsibility sometimes is that, okay, what did I not pay attention to? What did I pay attention to? How can I shift it and change it? How could I do it differently next time? Even that question.
Look, that taking ownership is huge.
Yeah.
I want to say I call them growth periods. So I just went through a growth period with taking ownership. And it was with my ex-husband. Similar to Kathy, I feel like certain processes I had to grow through was that abandonment and being able and standing on my own. And there was a lot of blame maybe in my marriage during that time of me not developing to be the woman that I'm supposed to be, I guess.
This body that's with us now.
But I had to take ownership and realize, like, some of the things I was doing was really hurtful. And how I feel like sometimes it comes is it may show up and you're like, was that me? Oh my goodness, that was me. And that's how it showed up for me, I would say. And I think that's when you are really raising your vibration, is when you can say, I was that person, and apologize for it and be able to move past it and genuinely feel that. Because sometimes I got to say, it took me a long time to get to that place, because I was saying, I wasn't that bad. You think you weren't that bad. You did everything you were supposed to do. But it's not about being bad or good, is how I say it. It's just something that doesn't serve me, that doesn't serve other people as well. So I had to really take ownership of that. And taking ownership is huge with raising your vibration.
It really is.
Or just like you said, kind of the making amends, the 12-step process talks about, and it's never too late to go back, been divorced 20 years. There's no reason you can't go back and say, wow, I have a new perspective. I really was a shit back then. Sorry about that. And it, doesn't,
I didn't know any better. I mean, we all make mistakes, right? That's how we learn. I mean, how many times did we fall on our diapers before we learn to walk?
Right.
It takes time. It takes processes. We got to keep trying and trying and trying. The key is choosing to get up every time we fall. I mean, I'm going through things again for like the third or fifth time, and I'm like, wow. And after 30 years of personal work and spiritual work, and how did I create this again? So obviously there's something there still for me to learn.
And sometimes I think it's to go deeper.
Exactly. That's true too.
You may have gotten a lesson, but now it's time to take it a little deeper. Because some of our stuff, like Kathy is so deep. You're going back to childhood. Some things happen to us at birth, and then there's past lives that we have to sometimes
that too
touch on. So it's every time we go to another level, it's
And can we forgive ourselves as well, Joanna? You said something just before that was so powerful, that sometimes we don't realize, well, we did the best we could with the knowledge we had then. That's it.
I was 22 when I got married. I did the best I could freaking do.
You did the best you could with the knowledge you had then. And that shifted my mentality too, and helped me get a little bit out of the blame, because I wasted a lot of time blaming family and blaming myself also.
Yeah.
For making the
wrong decision. I took a inventory at that point in time when I was talking about the business thing. I just did an inventory of everywhere I was blaming or feeling powerlessness, and just like your chart there, powerlessness, those things that are below the line. And I love the word that you highlighted there about the neutrality. When we get to the neutrality point, to be able to step outside of that, not feel the emotions, because we are not the emotions, we're feeling the emotions. Emotions are actually kind of like our guideposts. Are we aligned with what our soul is really asking for at this point in time? And so to me, when I'm going below the line, it's because there's something that's looking to be expressed through me that I'm not acknowledging, or that I'm not thinking I'm worthy or deserving of creating for myself. Or maybe I'm not feeling safe. And all those are, I call it improper prior programming. It's like, but we just picked it up somewhere.
And I love what you said, in terms of, you use the word guides, and sometimes we cannot see it. Sometimes we're so in it, so wrapped up in it, right, that we can't see it. And that's the moment when a coach, a guide, a spiritual healer, or one of these tools that we're going to be sharing during our program can be so incredibly helpful. For example, Carol is an astrologer, right? So how could that tool bring a shift and a raising consciousness or a support when somebody's going through that dark night of the soul?
Yeah, it's a big question. And with astrology, it's a willingness to ask the right questions. Like you were saying, Kathy, it's when we begin to ask the right questions, then the right answers will come in. And yes, astrology can help us do that. I had a client that was having challenges with how they were communicating with their child. And sometimes, depending upon our own perceptions, it helps to understand from an astrological perspective how the person that you're communicating with receives information. And it can help them and you communicate on a different level so that you can hear each other and really acknowledge one another and receive one another in a more open way. So those are the kinds of things where astrology can really help with communication, relating, and understanding one another.
And I love, sometimes it can give you a good kick in the behind, because it can sometimes, bring that mirror up that sometimes we can't really see for ourselves, but it can show us the patterns that we are working through, the patterns that our spirit came to work on in this lifetime, and the innate energies that are there that are going to be our challenges, so that we can figure out how to overcome them.
Right. And the cycles that we're living through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a chart done maybe 3 years ago, just I guess a reading of the chart. So I'm familiar with obviously astrology and things, but I'm not, when I sat down with this thing and they start going into the 12th house and Uranus and this one and that one, and you're in that house and you're in this.
Oh my God.
So confused. So I want to know, what the hell does that mean when I'm in?
I never talk astrologies with people because of that very reason. I have a normal conversation with people based on what it's talking about, and based on what I see. It has to be a dialogue back and forth.
Okay.
Or else you just create more confusion.
Yeah, it sure was. I mean, at the end of it, I was going to be going to hell for 3 years. So I was like, everything around you is falling apart. And he was right. I mean,
you're doomed
for the next 3 years, to be exact.
But that's a great segue for what's happening right now. How many people are feeling like everything's falling apart, and the places that we used to go for safety just aren't, things are shifting. And so I think, and again, that's why I love that visual that you pulled up, because it's so important for us to recognize that the walls around us can be falling down. And when we get grounded in that belief, that knowing, and to me, that's one of the ways of raising consciousness, is to get so grounded in my familiarity with my bigger soul, my bigger self, that is grounded in that infinite, it's part of the infinite being. Like I can kick the bucket and I don't end right here. The story doesn't end there, so when you are familiar with that resourceful side of you that has a bigger perspective and recognizes that the unfoldment that's happening right now is actually kind of a colossal experience. Like there's a new paradigm coming online. And when we can look at the guy looking at the cliff wall, because there's plenty of cliff to be looking at right about now. But if we can shift and have, get with our friends on the other side of the bus, and it really takes, to me, practice. Our brains are brilliant, and it's through that perspective and how we use our practice and how we the power of focus on that positive, to me, is where it is. And just like you said, the practice might be the gratitude. The practice is coming back to love. The practice is meditation and ways of quieting the external so that we can hear that internal voice that is speaking with wisdom of, this is happening for us in a greater unfoldment. And actually, I think of the next level of consciousness, we shift from victim to I'm a co-creator. But even beyond that is that life is happening through me. Like God is playing through me. He's got no arms and legs. He's got no preference on, chocolate or vanilla. So recognize that life is happening through us, and that we get to be part of God's hands and our agent to play the part as this crazy unfoldment is happening, this shift, we don't know where we're going, and we're all in this together, and we on some level chose it. So just recognizing, again, bringing the questions into play to focus on how positive this can be.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to share a little caveat here. We all have different backgrounds, different perceptions of God, different understandings of religion. This is not about religion. Mm-hmm. It is non-denominational. It is the grand organizing design and energy of the universe that we call God. And we are here to support your view of God, everybody's view of God. But I think it's worth mentioning that it's beyond religion, but a spiritual search for our meaning, for our source, for our origin, for who we are and how we are connected to that oneness, that loving, creative energy that created all that is, that we are part of, that we are co-creating with. Right. And so it's really beautiful. Also, the other thing that what Kathy, you said, inspired me to remember is this beautiful, I think it's a Native American story that says that you have this wolf that speaks to you beautifully on one shoulder and the other one that speaks to you negatively on the other. And at the end of the day, the grandfather asks the child, who do you think, which wolf is going to win? And it's whichever one you feed. So again, it's that training ourselves. Do I want to stay looking at the negative? I mean, nobody wants to, but unfortunately, a lot of times, I don't know about you, but I find myself sometimes, kind of going through that fight over and over in my head. I'm like, oh God, I can't believe you said this. And oh man, I'm going to say that. And like, why? Why would I allow myself to sit in that space? It was just a replay of the negativity. And it was like that radio, I was tuning into that station without realizing.
So that's what the thing is. So many people, like I was saying, they sit with that station on. Mm-hmm. And so like Kathy was saying, and just being able to shift, get on the other side of the bus. Mm-hmm. So getting on the other side of the bus is like, I found myself during that time of my life falling apart. I was reaching out for things like astrology, like things that just help me get through this time. Like, what if I could see the future right now and just tell me at the end of this that I'm going to be okay? I'll pay anybody anything.
Hope. It's hope.
It's hope. Exactly. Yeah. And but during that process, the tools that I learned that's what I want people to understand here when they come to this channel, that there's so many tools that and what I like to say is when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So when it's time to go through that process for yourself, you find these amazing tools like meditation. Meditation works for some and maybe not for none, but it works for me. So I know when I go into meditation, sometimes I could go in meditation with a question and the answer comes as soon as I'm out of it. And I'm like, holy shit, that was quick.
It's pretty awesome when you're manifesting that quickly, right?
When you're manifesting that quickly, like Kathy said, it's like this was years of and moving from a religious point of praying and doing all of these other things and really just transferring it to the divine within and co-creating and realizing that that's what I'm doing, that I'm not looking for anything else outside of me anymore. Everything is right here within. And when I understand and know what I want, it's happening. And it's that being clear is the shift. A lot of people aren't clear on what they want. So that's why they stay in that low vibration. I want to be with this person, but they're miserable. So do you really want to be with that person? And then they don't want to, it's a cycle that we put ourselves through. But what I'm saying, through these cycles, the tools that we come across, and what I like to say, we all offer tools here for everyone. But whatever energy resonates that's what you need to go with as you're moving forward to raise your consciousness, because the energy will speak to you before anything else. So whatever's along your path, one of the best questions to ask is this best for my greatest and highest good? And when you move along that energy, you'll always line up with what's supposed to happen for you, as long as you keep that as a question. That's one of the tools I use along with my meditation to move forward. And just knowing that what I like to say is doing what serves me best.
Love it. And who uses breath work to get out of those low kind of really difficult states, right? When we want to raise our vibration, do you ever use pranayama? Do you use breath work to do that?
Yes, I use the pranayama.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love pranayama because it really, on a very physical level, gets me in touch with my breath, with the breath. And the other thing that I have done, which I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about ever in the years that I've been doing any kind of work, is touching objects. It's a very, very intentional exercise. So basically what you're doing is you're locating an object in the room or outside, wherever you happen to be. You can do it inside, outside, and you locate that object. You intend to walk toward that object. And then once you walk toward that, walk up to that object, you intend to touch it. And then you touch it and you like make it real.
So you mean we're sitting, eyes closed, and we're visualizing ourselves touching the object, or we're
actually doing it,
physically walking to the object.
Oh no, we are physically. Oh, with your eyes closed?
No, sweetie.
Okay, yeah, say it again.
I'm in my room. I have all these things around me.
Right.
I see an object. I intend to go walk to the object. I walk to the object. Before I actually reach out to touch it, like the automaticity, we actually often just walk to something and we pick it up. We don't even think about it, right?
Okay.
But I'm actually focusing on an object. I'm going to walk to that object. And before I touch that object, I'm going to intend to physically touch that object. And when I touch that object, I make it real. It's tactile, right? And that puts you more into present time. And you do that for 5 to 10 minutes. And you turn around wherever you are and you locate another object and you do the same exact thing. It's all about intention and it's all about being present. And I'm telling you, it works. We did this in my groups for years, for like 15 minutes at a time, just to become more present. Touching objects, feeling the tactileness of it, makes it real.
Okay.
And it grounds you. It brings you to the present moment, right? To the right here, right now. In the right here, right now, unless you're in like an emergency or in a burning building, the right here, right now, you're usually safe. And you're usually in a state where you can make that choice to say, okay, I've piggybacked a little bit on that, Carol, with choose objects that have an emotional connection for you, that bring you joy or that represent love. And that will add another layer to that vibrational response, where that tactile, okay, this is here, right now, real, right? What am I seeing? What am I smelling? What am I touching? What am I feeling? Use all your senses and then allow the emotion of what that object represents. If it's a high vibration emotion, will help you raise that vibration as well. And it happens fairly quickly. It's another powerful way. Yeah. And in pranayama, does anybody have a particular type of breath work that soothes you or that supports you that you'd like to share?
Well, I actually have an app that I use.
And
it's from, let's see if I can find it.
While you look for it, Carol, I'm going to share one actually that's
Called Sagara, Saagara.
Never heard of that one.
Never heard of that one.
Good thing we came tonight. I learned something.
It's just so awesome, and you can do it. They have different levels of beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and you can program it however long you want each level of the breath to take. So whether you like inhale for so long, hold it, exhale for so long, and hold it for so long. So there's a lot of different ways you can use it. It's wonderful.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you. I love learning new things.
And actually, I'm going to put the name of it in the chat for people
Please
to
do.
Check out.
Please do. That's going to be my new toy. I'm so excited. I'd like to share a quick one that people can use. And this is the one that I personally practice the most, because I tend to find that if I feel stress or anxiety of any sort, this is the breath work that automatically calms me down. And it's deep inhales through the nose, expanding your lungs as much as possible. And then exhaling as if you were blowing out candles on a cake.
Mm.
Releasing all the air. And what ends up happening is that it brings, it tends to basically calm down the fight flight response, and it'll bring up the prefrontal cortex, and it brings a little bit of circulation and oxygenation to that part of the brain, which is the part of the brain that basically controls our impulses and can help us calm down and not have that immediate anger response or that immediate, revenge response or fight back response, so that then we can make a choice. I want to respond in a higher vibration. I want to respond calmly. And that will soothe. A few of these breaths will help that prefrontal cortex come back from the fight flight response.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I think you really brought up a good point, is when we're talking about raising consciousness, oftentimes we're in the fear, the doubt, like all the things that are happening right now, and just coming back to the present moment, because we can't change the past and we can't live in the future. And just such a powerful thing of living and expanding this moment now. That's what I like to get to, is how of thinking of this moment as timeless, because what if, beyond this time and space kind of a thing, like it's just a construct that we created. So I like to just play with the notion, and I think you're going to touch on it for us, but when you go out in nature might be a way of doing that, or the sensory inventory type of a thing that you're talking about, Carol, of that, the power of that present moment, because everything in this moment right now, you are well, you are safe, you are enough, you are deserving. Like every possible worry you could have is taken care of. And so I like to come back to that as a grounding practice of whatever type walks you there.
Yeah, it's all we have is now, right?
Exactly.
There is no past and there is no future in the now.
Mm-hmm. And that's why it's called, the gift is in the now, right? That's why it's called the present, something like that. So I love that, since we make recommendations of all sorts, one of these really powerful books is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't had a chance to read it, we highly recommend it, because that's one of those game changers that will shift your perspective in so many beautiful ways, that it's a wonderful book to go through. But basically it talks about that. The only moment of power is now. I can't do anything about the past. And right now I get to choose my future, but I'm not living the future yet. So it's moment to moment that I get to choose. Am I going to look at the cliff and the dark cave, or am I going to look at the sunset and the beautiful view? Am I going to look at the opportunity for the lesson for me to grow? Am I going to look at all the things that I did wrong and can guilt and shame myself about? So it's that moment to moment, right here, right now, whichever one I choose to look at. And it's important to, yes, be able to look at where possibly I made the mistake, but without the shame, without the judgment, without berating myself over it. Okay, what can I learn from it? So I made a mistake. I did the best I could with the moment, with knowledge or with a response. I was able to have that moment. What could I do differently next time? Just asking ourselves that question moment to moment, or when we feel ourselves, getting that trigger from somebody else in the conversation. Can I stop and breathe right now before I swear at them or before I give them the response I really feel like giving them or her? Can I stop and say, okay, how can I respond from a place of consciousness, of a higher vibration? Because truthfully, the higher I can vibrate and choose that response, the higher the response I'm going to receive and the level of communication, of understanding that we may be able to reach.
I like the saying of living at love or above. So just like you said, take that breath and like, what would love do? Essentially, how would I respond in love?
That's great. That's a powerful question right there.
How can I respond in love?
With love, from love, being the love.
Yeah. If I were unconditional love, how would I respond?
Yeah. Ooh, sometimes it's really hard. But I get it.
That's awesome.
I've been asking, how can I shine light on it? Because sometimes it's just so dark. Like you said, that dark side of the mountain. So I'll ask, how can I shine light on it? Because sometimes, like I said, I think the hardest thing that I come across is people not understanding when you are at a different frequency. It's sometimes hard to endure the lower frequencies for long periods of time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where
that's why they need to tune into the Mystic Mavens every other week.
Yes, please. And then the easy tips of raising your vibration.
Raising just a little bit.
One of the questions that I ask is, how would I want to be received?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That can be tricky because I think as women, a lot of times we're living into life as how we think other people need us to be. But like you said, that distinction of how would I like to be received? That's beautiful. Almost like the golden rule. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
because we get beyond the how
wants to be received well. They want to be seen and heard, and they want to be seen as having love and generosity and compassion. Yeah. So that we have to be that. For me, the question of that puts me in a place of how I want to be received. When I ask myself, how do I want to be received? Oh, that's what I really am. Oh, that's who I really am. It brings me back to the true nature of who and what I am.
I love that. And that's where you get to be that conscious self, the best version of yourself, right? Owning the truth of who you are. We're not all of these things that we believe we are. It's that love, it's that truth, it's that connection, it's that oneness. We are here in this kind of white canvas playground of life to see what we came to create. And it took me a very, very long time to get that. Right? Like, oh, wow. So you mean I don't have to go do this or be that or show up this way? No. What do I choose to create? You have this gift, this life. What would you like it to be like? What do you want it to be about? And asking that, I think, also takes us out of the victimhood of whatever, at least for me. Like I said before, I wasted a lot of years in victimhood and I didn't even know it. I didn't realize it. And fortunately, at least I was in a place where I was asking for help. I was looking for alternatives. I was looking to find other ways of feeling, of thinking, of behaving. And that willingness shifted the vibration. That willingness allowed me to experience the teachers, the tools, the books
Right.
that have brought me here today.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think we're all here sharing what we're sharing, right? Because
but I think I just want to highlight what was so beautiful about what you said is that you were seeking and you were ready. There comes a point when we've been, getting along well enough. So we're rolling and life's pretty good. And then there comes that time when it's like, okay, the wheels are falling off or this pattern's showing up again. And so the only way to me to release those old vibrations that we've been accumulating over time. You mentioned the emotional baggage. It gets heavy after a time. If I'm going to be 60, that means 50 years I've been dragging around some of this stuff. And the only way to get through it is to look it in the eyes. And half the time, well, not 80% of the time, the 80-20 rule is when you look at that dragon, it's like, it's this little guy. It's not this big thing that we made it out to be. But to me, that's one of the easiest ways of just offloading all the heavy vibrations. So talking about raising our vibration, or the beautiful work of Brene Brown, and she talks about shame. Shame is one of the lowest lowest vibrating. And that really all it takes is bringing it to light. Like we're shoving it into the corner up against the cliff. It's like, just bring it to the light. And especially when we can be brave and share it with other people, it's like we're all going through this crazy human journey, and maybe my shame is a little different flavor than Joanna's.
It's all shame.
And then, okay, so another practical tool that we can use, right? When we're in that state, are we willing to forgive ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Can we just ask that question? That automatically shifts and raises the consciousness on the vibrational level. No matter what I'm feeling, am I willing to look for support in a guide, in a coach, through a tool that will mirror to me what is happening, that I can make it more conscious, I can become more aware, whether it's numerology, tarot, whether it's astrology, whether it's a coach, a life transitions coach, right? Can I ask myself, am I ready to just receive hope, a possibility? Can I go into willingness to get support and guidance? That in itself will shift the vibration, right? And I'd love to share this chart again for a moment, just to make sure that we kind of went through all of them and that people get to see them for a moment as well. So going and asking, what can I be grateful for? Right? Thinking about someone that you love or something that you love, and holding space with that love will shift your vibration. Looking for support and guidance, right? Affirmations. We haven't really talked too much about affirmations yet, but thinking those positive thoughts. So we're going to talk about those for the few minutes we have left in a moment. Forgiveness. Can I forgive myself? Am I willing to forgive the other person? If it's somebody else involved in my life that's created this emotional state for me, or that I'm experiencing, not necessarily created it, but whom I co-created it with, right? And can I surround myself with beauty? That being music that brings up my vibration, or friends who will support me and just hold space for me and listen. They may not have the answer. Sometimes we're not looking for the answer. Sometimes we just need to feel heard. But if we're not, can we write about it? Can we journal about it? Can we release it into a piece of paper and throw it in the ocean, burn it up afterwards? Whatever we need to do to release it, right? So would you ladies care to share a couple of positive thoughts and affirmations that we could use as practical tools also to raise vibration?
One that I say a lot is, I am safe to be safe, because safety was a big thing for me, or feeling secure. So it is safe to be safe. It's simple, but it works for me.
Yeah. And I want to invite people to recognize that sometimes affirmations aren't going to work because it's such a stretch from where you are. And so here's what happened to me when I started as a coach years ago, the format that we used, it had a visual and there was self-love in the middle. And I was like, self-love, what does self-love have to do with it? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, it's got everything to do with it. And I just was like, okay, do I even know what self-love is? Do I love myself? I don't think I don't, but I didn't know what it was. And so I couldn't use an affirmation like, I love myself. I think I'm dandy. I couldn't go to that space. So I buffered it based on how far I could stretch into it. So the way I structured it was, I'm ready to understand what it would feel like to love myself. Mm-hmm. And I said it each, I would visit that and spend time with that every day. And then there was a day that I forgot to add the extra stuff in there. And I had arrived at self-love. It was direct. Now I'm ready to love myself. I love myself, and so just recognizing too, if you've got affirmations that aren't working for you. And sometimes I think affirmations are a little over the top, like I'm a money magnet or I'm a millionaire. I've got a millionaire mindset. It's like, maybe not.
I can totally relate to that, Kathy. Mm-hmm. When we can say statements that are truthful to how we feel, and still not, because for me personally, an affirmation is a negation of a negation. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't ring true for us for where we are now, then it's, what's the point? And
you'll call your old bluff. You'll be like, that's full of it. Like you'll hear it, exactly. You'll hear yourself say it, and you're like, you won't believe it. If you don't believe it, you can't possibly manifest it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I like how you said that because it's really
time, ladies. So do we want to, we're really at the 5 o'clock mark or this 8 o'clock mark. This has been awesome conversation.
Yeah, this is really great. And maybe we can put the visuals that you put on the website. Did you know we've got a website, mysticmavens.us. And so if you want to know what shows are coming up in advance, you can pop on over there and see what's going on. And we'll start a blog as of tonight with some of these beautiful visuals and a list of things that you can do to raise your consciousness.
And I'd love to remind everybody as well that you'll get to see the shows that are coming up, which Kathy just mentioned. But then if you show up live, you can get to ask us questions on the spot that we can answer. So if you have questions that come up for you or that you'd like a little bit more guidance about, please join us live. And of course, you can work with any one of us to support you with anything that you may be going through. And you can get all that information on our website as well.